Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So now that we have got the noise brush out of the way for the time being, let's move on to the stencil brush. And before we get into its implementation, the first thing we need to do is set up some resources, because now we're taking that step even further away from procedurally generated, well, colors into colors that are sampled from predefined textures.
Right, and we need textures. So
We do. The resources.
Yeah,
And those things. Like, hang on. Like, oh, can't even see the brush. Hang on. There's a brush. Brushes. With a resources folder. With all of those wonderful things in them. And again, are these the ones that you...
Well, not all of them. This one, the Alpha 0 and the Alpha 1, I did those ones on my own.
Woo! Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah,
nice.
You wouldn't believe how hard it took me to find those settings in Photoshop to do this. Particularly this one.
I can only imagine.
Hard.
I mean, if you have a problem with the casing, I can only imagine a perfect circle must be challenging.
Yeah, well, I kept looking for those settings that didn't exist. And
Gotcha.
All right, but yeah, these ones are very straightforward, and the same principle is there. What we're calling alphas here are just black and white images. There's really no alpha channel on any of these, but we're using those as mask for our stencil. These ones, though, are a subset of the ones that I found in a freely available package that is on ZBrush's website. So if you do some searches for alphas or alpha or stencils on the ZBrush forums, you should stumble across them fairly quickly. I did modify these in the fact that they were all various different scales and sizes. Some were much larger than others. I rescaled all of these to be 512 by 512 textures. And some of the alphas themselves were at various sizes, and I scaled everything up so they're relatively all the same size. Not all of them have nice smooth gradients. If I were to use these for real, I would do a lot more cleanup, making sure that they all faded off similar to the soft edge to make them as useful as possible, because you don't want a hard edge around these brushes, because they'll be picked up as seams. Not as bad in the sculpting, but when you get into texturing, a hard edge would show up very, very quickly, and it would be noticeable on your terrain. So you wouldn't want those. In that case, you'd want to smooth all these off. So that was just a bit of pre-processing. So that was all done in Photoshop. I renamed them so they're sequential. This naming for my particular use, for the way we're going to select the stencils, the naming is fairly important, because all I'm doing is looking up a resource that says alpha, and then I'm using an integer variable to keep track of the current stencil ID and appending that when I load in the stencils. It's kind of a hack. So I do have a hack. So some of the stuff with the sculpting tools, because it was put together as an R&D, it's not a full-flown fledged system. We don't have the ability to dynamically go in and change these, add and remove as you will. I didn't spend a lot of time coming up with a very robust system to allow you to do that. So I just kind of set it up so you go alpha 0 to whatever number, you give it a max ID, and you just let it, or the max number of stencils you have in your system, and just let it go. And it will handle it will handle the stencils itself. So technically you could put another stencil in here, name it alpha 19, go into the code, change its max number, and it would increment. And if I were really wanting to take the time, I would even add that into the config file and then pull the information from there so I could adjust it.
How about you just simply read the number of files in the folder?
You could do that, but then if somebody were to put something in there that wasn't an alpha,
then they're an idiot.
Yeah, well, we do live in the real world after all. I'm not saying that any of our users, but I've seen some pretty crazy stuff.
Well, then they don't need to be coding.
Yeah, you know, like the guy in the pickup truck that decided to stop in front
Oh
of me
boy.
at 45 miles an hour today.
Yeah, not good. All right, so you want me to pull this whole brushes folder over for you?
Yes, if you would, please.
Okay, be more than happy. So I'm going to take brushes, and I would assume that you want it all up under textures.
Yes, I do.
And mouse is yours.
I'll give it a sec. It needs to import all these
It's
brushes.
already done. There was just a lag getting that info to you.
Yeah. Now they're in the resources folder because we're going to be loading this in via script, so they have to be in a folder called resources. Here are our 18 alphas. Now, not that I like ranting about anything that Unity does or doesn't do. We know I don't ever do that. But it sure would be nice if I could select this alpha 0 right here and kind of scroll down to this one right down here. And then go over here maybe and possibly do something like, oh yeah, I want a filter mode of point, and I would like a wrap mode of clamp, and maybe set the advanced settings and hit generate bitmaps off, and then go to a setting of 512 for max size because I know I've got them all set to 512, and then hit apply. And then feel confident in the fact that I've made all of those changes and they've applied to every single one. But unfortunately, it doesn't do that. Matter of fact, it kind of does whatever it feels like. Like the point got set on the very first one, and then all the other settings went somewhere else. But which file got them all? So, oh, hold up. There we go. Nope. That one got them all. So, for some reason, Alpha 9 got the majority of all the settings.
Wow.
And it doesn't even make sense. It's not like the last file. It's not the first file that got it. It was an arbitrary one in the middle of the list that got all the settings. So, I don't know why. Anybody from Unity, if you're watching this, this would be on my list of, wouldn't that be nice? All right, so with that being said, those settings are what we want. We want filter mode of point, wrap mode of clamp. We want advanced settings, bitmap turned off, max size set to 512. And we do this for every single file.
So yeah, while you're just jamming on down, throwing these on each file, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Andrew Malloy. Andrew Malloy. Never really tried to pronounce his last name before, so I never really thought about it. Yeah, we're sitting here making fun of you while you're explaining all of this. Actually, I'm kidding. We're not making fun of you. I just said that I was
making fun of who, Andrew or me?
No, you. I said that I was giving you pure, and he said poor Lee, which my response was, poor Lee. How about awesome me? He wanted to know if you had written DirectX 12 yet.
Oh, no, not yet. That hasn't shown up. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, there is another setting I forgot to set on every single one of them. Yeah, read and write enable.
Oh, and that one's so critical.
Yeah, an important one. But I was only 3 into the list, so it's okay. I kind of liked the comment about me writing the time machine in the forums today. That was
hilarious.
Yes, it was.
And I developed a Twitch. I've had that Twitch.
And so true, too, because if I did write a time machine, it probably would all be hard-coded numbers.
I'd be like, that worked awesome. So let's change the year. And, well, it's hard-coded in somewhere deep in the
we can't do that.
bowels of the belly. We can't easily do that.
It'll take 3 hours.
No.
It shouldn't take that long, really. No, it will.
Or you guys can feel free to fast forward just because R&D videos, Lee's doing his thing, and we're just talking about super important stuff.
Just be glad there's only 19 of these suckers. Imagine doing this on a large project, say like our tech demo where there were hundreds of textures. And then you have the fun privilege of the project getting corrupted or re-importing assets for some reason and all the settings got wiped out. That was always fun. But that was an older version. So I don't know. The sound of a purple time machine, that would be kind of cool.
With all hard-coded values, no.
Why not? Well, if you wrote the time machine, it wouldn't be hard-coded. But, not only was it a time machine, it probably was
It'd make eggs.
It probably could make eggs. It probably solved the whole cold fusion issue.
Of course. God, I can't believe you think that I wouldn't have it doing that.
And not only that, but you could use it to write any type of video game that you wanted, not just Pong.
That's right. Well, you might get bored while on these long time-traveling ventures.
Yeah.
What's wrong with having extensibility, flexibility? It's all good stuff.
It is. But in demos, when you're trying to get it done fast and out the door, of course, then again, our demos have this habit of growing and growing and growing, which is always a fun. I'm getting better. I'm starting to write stuff that's a little bit more extensible.
Yeah, you're actually using some objects. That's an awesome start.
I've always used objects. Not my fault. I just used them as robust variables.
Just to give you an entry point. I'm just giving you a hard time, Lee.
Yeah, it was all fun. Hey, I will admit it. It's like when it comes to object-oriented programming, that's new to me, and I'm still getting completely up to speed. I do come from a procedural background. So, well, repeat.
Do it, Lee.
No, I can. I'm getting lost. I'm getting lost in here. I couldn't figure out why it was different. It's like, oh yeah, the infamous number 9. The one that stole all the settings. Now, the reason behind some of these settings, point filter, is because we're sampling at each point. I don't want to have it filtered and blurred and sampling across it, so we're using point. Clamp is to make sure that we don't wrap along the sides, because if anything gets sampled past the edge, I want it to get sampled to black. So then we get into our advanced settings. Read and write is because these are texture 2Ds, and we want to use get pixels on these. And if they weren't read-write enabled, we wouldn't be able to do that. We don't want MIP mapping because we want accurate sampling, and we don't need the extra size for it. And again, the 512 is because this is the native sample, and I don't need to upsample or downsample these.
Right.
This is one of the most fun things you can do in Unity. I swear. It's like when I wish I had the job where my job was to sit down and process this on thousands of assets all day long. From, the moment I clocked in to the moment.
Don't jinx yourself now.
Yeah. So, but wouldn't that be awesome? Okay, what are you going to do today? Well, I'm going to click some boxes and, hit some drop downs, and I'm going to go through because inevitably I'm going to miss some as I fell asleep. I think at some point I will finally get ticked off enough that I write in a add-on for Unity so I can go to the option and apply settings to everything. Mm-hmm. It's like going, take the one that has all your settings, now select the list of everything that you want it to be equal to. Set all those settings the same across all of them.
Heck yeah.
Of course, I've been saying I was going to do that for about a year now.
Or better.
Yeah, well, when did we start with Unity? It's been a while ago.
Well over a year.
Well, I remember I was working on Spacefighter V2 when you told me you wanted me to stop on that and get up the speed on Unity. Mm-hmm. So that had to have been 2009, I think?
Yeah, we're going on a couple of years.
So, but then again, we were just looking at the iPhone app stuff back in those days. It wasn't until about a year ago that we started with the MMO stuff.
Right.
So that was when the education on Unity really began.
Oh, boy.
In all of our arguments, can't you do that in Unity? No, you can't do that in Unity. Those were always fun.
Those, in the end, it ended up being done in Unity. Just not in a traditional way.
No, done in Unity, but not with Unity.
But see, you said all I needed to hear. Done in Unity.
Well, I think it was more, doesn't Unity do that? No. Of course, the Jeff arguments were always my favorite.
They were priceless.
Yes, they were. It's like going, I've made it better, Jeff. It doesn't work anymore. I know, but it's better.
It's better. You and him had such great battles.
Yeah, it was. If you just sat back and laughed.
Well, it was so entertaining.
Well, you're kind of like the parent that's overseeing the two neighborhood kids. You're a kid in the neighborhood, and you're kind of egging them on. Except you would be the parent that threw out, the drawer full of kitchen knives and go, here, have at it.
Oh, me never. Are you done yet?
No, because I still have to go back and make sure I got them all right.
Oh, boy.
And apparently my antivirus wants to restart my computer.
But
we won't let it do it. I told it to not do that. See, which is nice because the antivirus says, hey, I'd like to restart the computer. Is that okay with you? No, it's not. Okay, well, fine. I'll remind you some other time. Microsoft, on the other hand, will come in, hey, we're restarting your computer right now, whether or not you want to. Those are always the fun ones, especially when you don't know it's coming.
Especially when you're in the middle of raid in World of Warcraft with 24 other people, and then all of a sudden your computer just shuts down. It's like, huh? What? No.
No.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, I know that happens. But I was thinking more of the instance where you knew you were going to go to bed and you had this big, long batch process that you wanted to start.
Yeah, I've had those happen too. Ugh.
You fire off the computer and you expect to wake up in the morning and go, you know what? I was rendering out 1,000 images of that animation last night, and it should be done by the time I get up. So I get up and go, why are there only 4 frames rendered?
Yeah.
Those are always the best. All right, so I forgot to check those. I think I missed 2.
Well, I can say with computing now, I am like one of the largest fans in the world of VMware Workstation. Tonight I set up a dedicated machine for our virtual machine just for encoding, and it worked flawlessly. And then I set up a dedicated Windows Server 2008 R2 just for when we get around to teaching Photon and the networking stuff, which is going to be really, really nice because that's what they recommend that you run Photon on is Windows Server 2008. So it's just going to be nice demonstrating all of that stuff, but being able to do it from the recording machine with the virtual machines in place.
Well, the nice thing is not having to have a dozen machines that all do a different thing, or trying to do a dozen things with your existing machine and then
bog it
messing
down with
up
so much garbage and messing it up, and
I have to rebuild the whole machine.
My computer has almost nothing actually installed on it. I mean, I've got Sandbox C, and almost everything is in that except for the development stuff. And then I've got VMware Workstation, and I've got about 6 different operating systems that have been cloned and branched, and all have very specific purposes, and I love it. Are you finally done?
Yeah, I've been done. I was just listening to you go on about your machine again.
Okay, well,
I have to listen to him talk about his machine every day.
You know why, Lee? Because it's awesome.
Yeah, I know. It's not, anything but sheer envy at which those comments come from.
I just remind you that for a year before I got this one, you told me that of yours all the time until it blew up.
Yeah, you know what? The worst part is is I've got all the pieces parts to put it back, and it's sitting right behind me, not hooked up.
Yeah.
Because I'm dedicated to the MMO to such an extent that I'm running on a slower machine, so I can ensure the experience is good for everybody.
That's right.
And the only thing that Super Wampanoag machine would be used for is playing video games, which, my boss doesn't let me do.
Oh, whatever. All right. So is that going to wrap up the setting up the resources then?
Yeah, this part, yeah. We're all done, and in the next video we can actually start implementing parts of the stencil brush.
Awesome. Well, we will wrap that up. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us, and that will conclude this R&D video.